Good morning, everyone. Rabbi Dr. Jack Cohen here. I want to share an amazing thought in the Parsha and couple that with an awesome story. In this week's Perashat B'Shalach, Am Yisrael has now left Egypt and now finds itself having traveled through the desert at the sea wall. In hot pursuit of the nation is Paro and his entire army, looking to bring them back and subjugate them what's more as slaves. The nation screams out to Moshe, "Did you bring us here just to die in the desert?" Moshe now is baffled, doesn't know what to do. So he screams to God. And Hashem says, "Ma titzak elai? Why are you screaming to me, Moshe? Tell them to go forward." At that point, the prince of the tribe of Judah, Nachshon ben Aminadav, jumps into the water and a miracle takes place and the sea splits, but not completely, little by little. Hashem wants to send us a message that in life, you, the human being, need to take the first step. And then Hashem says, "I'll come through. By having faith and trust in me, I'll take care of the rest." Our sages tell us that the splitting of the sea is equated to finding your Shidduch and making a living. What does that mean? So let me share an amazing story with you about the great Rabbi Wallerstein, a man who had extraordinary accomplishments in serving Klal Yisrael, someone that I knew well and I admired greatly. He was at one time in his life an 8th grade Rebbe in a yeshiva called the Crown Heights Yeshiva. One year, a boy in his 6th grade had been expelled. His name was Howie. Howie's brother was a student of Rabbi Wallerstein. Years later, that student who was in Rabbi Wallerstein's class was getting married and invited Rabbi Wallerstein to come. Rabbi Wallerstein found his table setting where he was going to sit, and he went to his table setting to sit, and he found himself seated next to Howie and his obviously non-Jewish girlfriend who looked and appeared to be Asian. And to make matters worse, Howie was wearing a half-sleeve shirt and he had these tattoos of Buddha on his arm. When the Chatan came out of the Yichud room and the first dance started, Rabbi Wallerstein motioned to Howie, "Come, let's have the first dance with your brother." And they danced and they made the Chatan happy. When they came back to their chairs, Rabbi Wallerstein sat with him and he said, "I feel terrible that you were thrown out of school. It was an inappropriate move, but I have a great idea. Why don't you come and join me? Every Tuesday night I have a class. Come, tell us about Buddha. Tell us what life is like with that." So then, that following Tuesday, Howie came to the class. He was extolling the virtues of Buddha, where Rabbi Wallerstein just cracked the joke and he said, "If Buddha's a god and he's so strong, why is he so fat and why can't he lose some weight?" At that point, Rabbi Wallerstein broke the ice with him and he was able to convince him to come to the class every Tuesday. And so, Howie came every Tuesday. After a few months, Howie thankfully got rid of his Asian non-Jewish girlfriend. And more than that, Rabbi Wallerstein said, "You know what? I want to take you to Israel. I'm going to sponsor a trip to Israel. I want to take you. I believe you belong in Israel. I'm going to put you in a yeshiva." And so that's exactly what they did. They traveled to Israel. Rabbi Wallerstein set him up in a beautiful yeshiva. Howie started to learn. Howie now became Chaim. Things are good. A few years into it, Howie became frum and he was religious now. Chaim, that is. And then he calls Rabbi Wallerstein. He says, "I'm ready to come back home. I want to get married. Can you find me a girl in America?" Rabbi Wallerstein instinctively knew that that wasn't a good place for him. America was not the spot that Chaim or Howie would thrive more in Israel. He said, "You know what? Hang out a few more months. Hashem will see and will take care of you." And wouldn't you know it? A few months goes by and Howie or Chaim calls Rabbi Wallerstein and tells him, "You won't believe it. One of my Rebbes set me up with a nice Israeli traditionally religious girl. We started dating. But you know what, Rabbi? I wear long sleeves even in the summer because I'm so embarrassed of my tattoos. I have tattoos on my arms, on my chest, and my back. And what would happen if she finds out about it?" And Rabbi Wallerstein told him, "Don't worry. If it's meant to be, she'll love you regardless of what you have." And so a few months goes in, he continues to go out with her. And then one night, he tells her, "I have something to tell you." The girl thought that he was going to propose for marriage. And Howie tells her, "I have something to tell you." At that point, Howie takes his arm out of his sleeves, out of his jacket sleeve. He rolls up his shirt and he shows her the tattoos of Buddha on his arms. And he tells her, "More than that, I also have tattoos on my chest and on my back." And she looks at him and she says, "You know what? There's only one tattoo that I see. That is Hashem's name imprinted on your soul. Chaim, you've become extremely spiritual. And that's all I care about. And that's all I think about. And I would be delighted to spend the rest of my life with you." At that point, Howie asks her to and proposes to her in marriage. They get married. And thankfully, they end up staying in Israel. Today they live in Bnei Brak, all because of the emunah and bitachon that Rabbi Wallerstein drilled into this boy. As our sages say, that the splitting of the sea is equated to finding your Shidduch, but through emunah and bitachon, we can always find that special person in our life, and Hashem will help us to build a great Jewish home. Shabbat Shalom.